I 23 have always been civil with my 19 half-brother. We were close as kids, but he started to have an attitude at 13 and pretty much stopped being nice and started messing with my things, making fun of me and doing pranks to annoy me. Privacy was gone with him coming into my room and taking my things. Whenever I complained, my stepmom would normalize his behavior and make excuses. My dad never really grounded him and thought that talking to him will get him to behave better. I'm currently in college. I live in a rented apartment and have a car to help me get to the university or other places. The car isn't expensive or fancy at all. I saved up for it 2 years ago. I decided to have Christmas dinner with my family. It's the perfect opportunity to be with family since I haven't seen my dad in a while. I arrived at my dad's house and left my purse and my keys on the kitchen island after my stepmom told me to help with dinner. My half-brother started talking about my car in the kitchen while my stepmom was listening and asked if he could take it for a couple of hours to hang out with friends. I politely told him no. He threw a fit and brought up how I needed to relax and not worry, but my answer was still the same. While we were sitting at the dinner table, my half-brother got up, washed his hands, and I thought he went outside. I got busy talking to my dad, and after I got up to wash my hands, I noticed my car keys weren't there. I went outside to ask him, and neither he nor my car were there. I lost it. I started calling his phone, but he hung up on me several times. I was furious. I told my dad I'd call the police if he didn't come back with the car. My stepmom jumped to defend him and said I was being unreasonable to call the police. I called him one last time, then I called the police. My stepmom freaked out when my half-brother got picked up by the police. She told me to go explain the situation to the authorities, otherwise he'd spend the night in jail. But I refused, especially since I still hadn't got my car back. Stepmom yelled that I ruined dinner and that it was no big deal. He was going to return it after borrowing it from me, but he didn't really borrow it, and she heard me say no. I don't know what she told the police, but I didn't give permission to use the car. My stepmom's side of family are mad at me for doing this to my brother and hinted that I don't consider him family. My dad's side of family sided with me, saying he deserved it. My dad said I overreacted and I shouldn't have called the police when he disappeared for 4 hours. Edit: he did not borrow it, but my stepmom said I let him borrow it, which is not true. Edit: just to clarify, I talked to the police about what happened, and I learned later that my stepmom said that her son was allowed to borrow it and that it was a misunderstanding. I wasn't going to let her continue to lie, but my dad told me to back off and let it go. This really upset me. My half-brother wasn't even berated the way I was by the family. Not the idiot. If tell your dad he raised a thief and that he should be ashamed of himself for letting his wife and your half-brother get away with this behavior. That he's a failure of a father and a husband. That his son is likely to do something worse than this. What else is he going to borrow some girl's body? With that mentality and his mother, I'm surprised you didn't press charges, cause I would out of spite for the stepmom. Also, he's 19 and an adult. I'd also tell your stepmom that she's failed as a parent and her attitude show it. Her son's a crook and she raised him to be one. That her failure is gonna make him end up in jail. Not the idiot. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking it's not a big deal. He took your car without your permission. Your stepmother is making excuses for your brother. Your dad probably just wants everyone to get along. Your brother is used to doing whatever he wants because his mother makes sure he never deals with consequences. I would have done the same thing if someone stole my car. You might want to consider going no contact with your brother and stepmother. Your stepmother will never see as an equal to your brother and will always treat you less than. Not the idiot. They had the chance to call him up and tell him to get home ASAP. They also had a chance to parent him properly all these years. That illegal adult thinks he has the right to do whatever the hell he wants is unnerving. If I were you, I'd get the car back and just go back to your apartment and never come back to your parents' home, because I'd be afraid that all three of them would condone retaliation in whatever way, whether that be making up false charges against you, physical violence, verbal, emotional abuse, etc. I, 28, am currently pretty much estranged from my family. I have a younger sister, 27, Tori. When one of my friends, Brendan, 28, started dating Tori, I hated it at first, but eventually I gained a best friend. They got married in 2018 and I was the best man. Brendan is now like my brother, we are that close. In 2020 Tori left Brendan for another guy. Reality TV type crap. My parents were incredibly upset, as was I. My sister moved in with the guy immediately. My parents knew I was pissed but had to support their daughter. I went NC with Tori and LC with my parents. In 2020 when Tori's second wedding happened, I didn't go. Me and my dad had it out over it. My mother tried playing peacekeeper for the family. My parents then started giving me the silent treatment. When 2020 holiday season came around, it was the height of COVID. My parents said that I should just do my own thing this year. Because with me going out a lot, they didn't want me spreading diseases. My exact response was, if you are worried about catching diseases from other people, shouldn't you be more worried about Tori? I mean, she's the one who likes to sleep around. Me and my dad had another fight, especially due to his family over everything mantra. I hardly spoke to my family in 2021. My parents would send me texts like, when you are ready to apologize, we'll be here type crap. I responded with a Bible verse about adultery and how they support it. I was berated again and we hardly spoke until October of 2021. Last year I was told we were doing Thanksgiving at Tori's place, and if I wanted to come I needed to apologize to Tori and her husband. I laughed and ended up going to Brendan's family's, where Brendan's mom posted me with her family on FB and tagged me with a quote about family being those you choose. I never told her to post it. But my mom saw it and went crazy, asking for me to come over and talk and even comment on the post. So this year my plan is to go to Brendan's family again. My mom called and said she wanted to host this year. I asked if Tori and her husband would be there. She said of course they are family. I said so was Brendan, but I saw how you treated him and me. So no, thank you. Yesterday my dad called and said my mom is distraught and has been for years. She wants us all to get along, so I need to do the right thing. I said I'll come if my sister isn't invited. He said that he wouldn't do that to family. I said he did that to me for 2 years. He claimed I did it to myself. My mom is now saying it was my dad that has been the hard ass about this the whole time. I said she should have divorced him then, because I'm not putting up with his crap anymore. Either my sister isn't invited or I don't come. I've now had some extended family reach out and say my parents are upset and hurt. I said my parents were totally okay with not having me around for 2 years. Am I the idiot? Edit, for those responding and wondering. Yes, she did cheat. Brendan found the text. She never came clean or admitted it. Brendan was willing to forgive and work past it. She left in the middle of the night and moved in with the new guy. And took the house and he had to sell it. He had it before they married, so when I say being held accountable, I think she owes him money on top of everything else. Edit 2, for those commenting on the COVID 2020 thing. I went out like 3 times during it. Save the pearl clutch. My parents aren't even vaxxed. They simply used it as an excuse. They don't give a single crap about COVID. It was just an excuse to keep me away. Not a single mention of it other than that one weekend. It's obvious that you're deeply embroiled in and enjoying all the drama. You're sowing by refusing to accept your sister's decision to move on from her marriage to your friend. By your own reports, you are baiting everyone you speak with and picking fights left and right. I assume you're aware that you can still remain civil with your sister and her new husband while, at the same time, supporting her ex-husband, your friend? It's very clear you don't value the relationships you have with your parents or your sister. And that's fine. But it does make you an idiot. So the moral high ground you're so comfortably inhabiting right now? Get off it. You're the idiot. Everyone's the idiot here. The fact is that you have no idea why your sister's marriage fell apart. You weren't married to Brendan. You didn't sleep with him every night. You didn't have to deal with him after work. You never cleaned up after him, nor did you fight with him day in and day out. Just because he's a good bro doesn't mean he's a good husband. Your sister made a decision, and you should respect it already. Quit acting like a toddler just because she doesn't want to attach herself to your buddy forever. As far as the Bible verses go, I suggest you take a look at Matthew 7:1. I'll take your word for it that she started seeing her new husband while she was still married. She's the idiot for that. You're the idiot. I get not approving of the way Tori treated Brendan and feeling upset that they're no longer together. But I feel like you're acting way too hurt over someone else's relationship. It's Tori's life, Tori's relationship, Tori's business. Have your opinion about it, fine, but the way you're acting out seems childish. If you don't want to be in your family's lives anymore, that's totally your prerogative, but if it's solely because you don't like the way Tori handled her relationship with Brendan, I personally find that ridiculous. 30 When I first married my husband, 36, and moved in with him, I decided to give my stepdaughter my old dresser and nightstand from my parents' house. My set was much nicer and she loved it, so we got rid of her old dresser during the move. It's been about 4 years now, and my husband and I have a 2-year-old daughter and are expecting another girl in February. We have been co-sleeping with our daughter since she was born and she has shared our room, but now we need to move her into her own room. I have always wanted my children to have my old things from my childhood, and that included the dresser set. When we gave my stepdaughter the dresser, I had made it clear to my husband that once we had children, our children would be using it since it is mine. He agreed and still agrees with me, so we decided to discuss it with my stepdaughter. She was upset that we were taking it away. We tried to ask her to downsize her things so that she can store her clothes in the closet, but she refused, saying we should just buy a new dresser for our daughter. So after she left, we decided to leave her clothes on her bed and take the dresser out ourselves. After she came back the next weekend, she waited until we left the house and moved the dresser back into her room. My husband had another discussion with her and we let her know that was unacceptable. Now her mother is involved and is calling us, telling us we are being unreasonable and should just buy a new set. The thing is, my husband and I have also decided to stop buying new clothes for my stepdaughter, as we already send her mother child support and we need both the money and space. Once she grows out of her clothes, she will not need a dresser, so there is no point in buying a new one when we need to save money. You are the idiot. A big one. You gave your stepdaughter something. Then you are trying to take it back for your real kid. As if this child isn't going through enough stress having a new half-sister. Now you are making her feel she has been replaced. Major move. The irony is, you probably could have sold her on buying her a new set for her birthday or Christmas, saying she was so grown up that she deserved a new set and the baby should have the old used one. See, that would have made her feel important. Instead you decide to take a crap on her. Not spending money on her because of your new baby. Are you trying to be the evil stepmom? Because, congrats, you are nailing it. You are the idiot. You are talking about your stepkid as if she doesn't mean anything. The damn dresser is in your house, who cares which one of your 3 daughters is using it? If I would be your stepkid, I would be thinking that I was good enough before your own kids say along, but now that you do have them, I'm nothing anymore. Would she move out with it, then you're on your right, but now you're just the biggest idiot. That your husband is agreeing is also weird AF. But I believe you are making him do that. Shame on you. You talked to your husband about how you were just loaning it to your stepdaughter, but I don't see anything about talking to your stepdaughter about what would happen at any time during the 4 years. If you had really wanted to make this work, you would have taken your stepdaughter out to choose new, or new to her, furniture a few years ago, when you saw this coming. But then I read the part about how you aren't going to buy her any more clothes either, so she won't need a dresser, so I'm thinking that you're not just an idiot but more likely a troll. Nice try. Me, F, and my ex-husband, M, are divorced. We have a 16-year son together, Mason. I got remarried to my husband, M, Nathan. My ex-husband and I used to argue on who should get Mason for the holidays back when he was little. As he got older, we started letting him decide. Last year he spent Christmas with me, Nathan, and my in-laws, and he complained that the experience was terrible because he said Nathan and his family had little to no accommodation for his food choices. I'm not defending them, but my in-laws are quite traditional when it comes to food and a bit ignorant to what types of foods Mason eats. He also said he didn't feel as welcome as the other kids in the family, and that Nathan forced him to share his personal stuff like his phone so that his step-nephews could watch Christmas movies. Yesterday, during breakfast, we were talking about Christmas and what we were planning this year, but he out of nowhere announced that he'll be spending this Christmas with his dad at a rental Christmas cottage in his favorite town. I was stunned, so was Nathan. I asked Mason when and how he agreed to this arrangement, but he pointed back to what happened last Christmas and said he didn't want to basically have another crappy holiday and be miserable. I told him that his dad should have come to me first, but he argued that he's already okayed it, and so he saw no need for my opinion. We started arguing and he started complaining about me trying to ruin the experience, but in response I told him that he has already ruined Christmas for me and his stepdad the minute he agreed to this arrangement. He got up and walked away after saying that I was being overdramatic. Nathan just sat there and looked down. I had a huge argument on the phone with Mason's dad, and he kept giving me an attitude and laughing and saying that I sounded pathetic. When I told him I'd have my lawyer call him, he backpedaled and said he wouldn't have done this if Mason didn't like it. He urged me to drop it and let Mason have this experience or he'll resent me for missing it. Now Mason isn't speaking to me. Nathan is trying to convince him to stay with us because without him, Our Christmas is ruined, but he won't budge from the looks of it. Am I the idiot for not dropping it as well? What I meant by why didn't his dad come to me first is that he planned to take Mason out of town, which is a big deal to me. There's going to be traveling. You're the idiot. So your son can decide who he wants to spend holidays with, as long as he chooses you? Get over yourself. Start thinking of your son. You did nothing to make his holiday a good one last year. You let him be miserable and just defended your in-laws. Instead of supporting your son's choice, you throw a tantrum and threaten your ex. Some parent you're being. You're acting more like a kid than your own kid. You're the idiot. Maybe if Mason had enjoyed his Christmas, and was treated fairly, he'd want to be around you for Christmas? He also chose to spend it with you last year. Why can't he switch off this year if you let him choose? I get the impression that the only reason you give him an option is so that you get to lord it over your ex when you get picked, but now that it's gone the other way, you're throwing a tantrum. And you're going to ruin your kid's holiday, and your relationship with him, if you keep pushing this. It sounds like you and your ex established that your son gets to decide, so when he decides he doesn't want to spend Christmas with you, you pull out an emotional manipulation tactic. I think it would be fair for your son to spend Christmas with his dad just based on the fact alone that he spent it with you last year. But all of that aside, it's a really unfair expectation to put on a child that if they don't do what you want, your holiday is ruined. That is not a healthy emotional boundary and will foster resentment.